3, security. Are you really comfortable staying where you are? The customer figures, okay, not only am I going to save money, I also just became aware that I'm not as nearly as secure as I thought I was. The outer layer is made out of discarded wool sweaters that have moth holes, or climb the mountain just to slide all the way down, and slide all the way down. I can put it in my bed. Whoa, that was a good one. I never had an idea, you know. I was working as a graphic designer, and I really, first of all, I didn't know you could do this for a living, like perform or do art. It's such a random thing to start doing, so in a way, it's for me interesting to trace it back of where it might come from. There's been like a whole canon of tall, crazy women in my family who've been doing precisely what I do, yelling on streets or talking, but they've been locked up for it. You know, so I'm like the first woman that it's like tall and intense and all these things, that I'm actually living off this. I never set out to do anything, you know. I never woke up one day and let me collect some language and then I'm gonna cut it up and I'm gonna make it. It was never really an idea, it was more it happened. With the graphic works, I felt, okay, I'm not a tourist here. I really know this stuff. But with performance, I felt, okay, you know, there's probably people in theater who can do this better than me. You know, I have to get everything in order and I need to actually become this performer.
Here's how much you can use at peak capacity. Here's how much savings we can see in your case. And then customer says, yeah, okay, but how do I know that I'm secure with your product?
I think she's pissed I'm taking her chair. Look at this. She's just like basically literally kicking me away. She's like, Nora, that's my chair. Everybody's like reading, everybody's looking, everybody sees these things. I'm not like bringing anything new to the table. It's just that I'm the only one who stops and writes it down. You know what I mean? That's the only difference. And then the whole thing, like a whole life becomes around that. You know, when I go to shop, I read labels and I find something. And almost when you seek it out, it doesn't work. You know, if I go sit down, I'm gonna find some sentences now. You know, like it doesn't work. You just have to live and you have to expose yourself to the content. If I would move somewhere, that might influence my work. Who I hang out with influences my work. If I hang out with, I don't know, with a plastic surgeon or like a nuclear scientist or for like a week, the work is gonna become a lot about that. I have this space and I know that the only way for me to be taken serious in this space is to paint the walls. So let me just paint the walls and then I can perform something else. You know, it's like it was a way to kind of establish some power that was more than being a clown in a room. And of course, that doesn't make it less valuable as an artwork because it's not a prop or it's not me performing in front of it. As a matter of fact, I think it makes it more interesting, you know? With wall paintings, I'm really interested in how can they be handmade, that they're so perfect that they're digital, but when you come closer, you're like, oh my God, somebody painted this. You know, you don't have to order print or produce it, or you're not gonna be able to infinitively ship all these like outrageous objects all over the world, you know.
Ooh. It's always nice to do this. Bam.
Pool is something I do once a year together with Sabode, graphic designer. It's basically all the language that I've collected throughout the year. 90% of it didn't make it into my work. We could call it like a scrapbook of our culture. Nora is going to MoMA. That's like, I wrote that down. I don't know why I wrote that down, but I thought it was hilarious. It's really interesting to look back at things and how we looked at them and how they're like different or like my filter was so much less dense. Yeah, it's interesting to also look back at yourself like this. Vulnerable, but yeah, fuck it. This is where I was, you know?